between battalions is high, and that between firing batteries and individual gun crews even more spirited. There is the last-minute touch, the final delicate adjustment before a cannon is ready and the order is given to fire. The 280s are right on target. A short distance away at the missile firing position, the corporal receives a pre-firing check. A test cable and compressed air lines are attached to the missile in order to check its control systems. Although the principles on which the guided missile functions are essentially the same as those of a 4th of July skyrocket, the weapon itself is an enormously intricate and complicated instrument of destruction. Once in flight, the corporal steers itself by means of movable fins in its tail, ensuring pinpoint accuracy. Once the corporal flight checks have been completed, the tent is removed to give the fueling crew room to work. Fueling is a hazardous and complicated operation, and the artillerymen truly look as if they belong among the spacemen of the future in their strange protective clothing. In combat, a single missile would receive only one feeding of the liquid oxygen and propellant necessary to satisfy its thirsty rocket on a one-way trip. During dry runs such as these, however, the corporals can be filled many times over with the amount of fuel which would ordinarily be required to lift the 5-ton missile from its launching bed. After the fueling operation has been completed and all of the pre-firing checks are found to be satisfactory, the corporal is ready to receive its lethal crown, the warhead it will carry to the target. Groomed and checked for a simulated launching, the missile is ready to be picked up and put in its vertical firing position. The crew first works the erector into place so that the corporal can be grabbed and drawn upward gently by the great hydraulic claws of the vehicle. While the firing battery prepares the missile, other pieces of equipment, such as the radar which will track its flight path, are already in action. Upright, the corporal stands as high as a 3-story building. The crew members of this particular missile battery are almost ready to go, now that their weapon is securely in place on its portable platform. Perhaps the big picture camera can interrupt them long enough to ask a few questions. Sergeant, what is your job on this crew?
Launcher section chief.
What are the major duties you perform?
To see that the launcher is properly in place, leveled. The missile is then brought to the launcher, released from the erector. The missile is then leveled, and we continue with our on-launcher servicing.
What was the crew doing when we interrupted you?
We were re-leveling the launcher.
Why is that necessary, Sergeant?
This makes for the missile being in the proper vertical position after releasing by the erector.
How long have you been in the Army, Sergeant?
Will be 15 years next month.
Has most of your time been in guided missiles?
No, it has not. I've been in it since January of 1955.
Thank you, Sergeant, for taking a moment out of your work to talk with us. Among the tall trees of the forest, the corporal stands nearly invisible. Last-minute adjustments are made as the missile crew prepares for a simulated firing. Buried under a deceptive cobweb of camouflage netting, one of the vans, which carries the complicated electronic equipment controlling the missile, is alive with split-second activity. Preset figures which will help determine the flight path and the point of impact of the corporal are fed into the missile system before firing. Once the men clear away from the weapon, the countdown goes out from the officer in charge, and the members of the missile crew tense expectantly as they await the firing order. The men know their jobs well. Every movement is a duplicate of the real thing until the instant of firing. For the actual firing of the corporal, the missile men must wait until their next live exercise at the Oro Grande range back home. There, at the press of a button, the corporal is fired. Searing the southwestern skies like a giant aerial blowtorch, the missile responds to the electronic commands of the highly trained missile men of the 42nd Field Artillery Group. The corporal may travel 50 miles above the earth before it turns and plunges down upon its target, delivering a devastating punch from space, a concept of the future in your Army's artillery today.
The training these men undergo with their weapons is a representative chapter in the continuing story of your Army's development of firepower and serves as a further deterrent to any future wars. Now, this is Sergeant Stuart Queen, your host for The Big Picture.
The Big Picture is an official television report for the armed forces and the American people. Produced by the Army Pictorial Center. Presented by the United States Army in cooperation with this station.